Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Make it turn gray. And if you are a returning subscriber, or either or, thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope you enjoy what I'll be reading today. And without further ado, let's get started. So just one last thing I'm gonna say. I think I'm gonna be reading to the next chapter. Let me just quickly double check. We'll see. So I think I'll get there. I'm not quite sure. So if I don't, I'm really sorry, but I think I can do it. So, okay. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay. Miss Morning smiled. Your gifts are very strong, like your brother's. He was the first of his class to begin magical training as well. Her voice turned contemplative. But you may want to ask him about how best to deal with your success in front of your friends. I know he had quite a difficult time being the first. Did he? Megan asked. He didn't mention it. Miss Morning sat down at the desk next to Megan's. It is because you are all so unused to be expressing your emotions. And now that you're allowed to do so, sometimes they can grow wildly out of control. All of you have felt the sting of not being wanted or necessary. It's not a pain that goes away quickly and resurfaces sometimes without warning. Megan grew somber. You're right, she said softly. But that's why being the first feels so nice. Like I am actually, she said. She blushed and scraped the toe off her sandal. And scraped the toe off her sandal on the marble floor. Like I'm valuable or something. Her face burned. Miss Morning pat Megan's shoulder and tipped the girl's chin up. You are valuable indeed, she said quietly. Then why? Because this will feel like another failure to your friends. Megan thought about that for a long moment. She sighed. And though she didn't want to say it, she did. Maybe I should wait for them to catch up. Miss Morning smiled warmly. That is a very generous thing to say, Megan. You are a mature young woman, but we shan't wait for them. Our warriors need you, and they need you now. You must learn everything you can as quickly as you can. The others will join you eventually. Perhaps your success will drive them to succeed as well. Her smile remained warm, but her eyes became shadowed with a hint of something. Was it fear? Megan didn't dare to ask. And after a moment, the shadow passed, and Miss Morning continued on in her cheerful manner, so convincingly that Megan thought she must have imagined it. After her private lesson, Megan left the practice room, bubbling with excitement, but also a bit anxious to know how Mr. Today would respond to Miss Morning's suggestion. She decided she would keep her news quiet until she was certain, and only discuss it privately with Sean. Hopefully, she thought, he'd have some good advice for her. She joined the others in the last class of the day, actor's studio, which they all shared. In the midst of it, she was so deep into her thoughts that Alex had to poke her in the arm when it was her turn to perform, and she was so befuddled and that she flubbed all her lines quite horribly, which made Samhit frustrated enough that he threw his script at her. It hit her squarely in the forehead, and as it was Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, it was thick enough to hurt. "Hey!" she shouted, and without thinking, she flung her script at Samhit, hitting the back of his head as he stomped off the stage. "Why, you little—" Samhit charged toward Megan, his boots stumping and echoing in the auditorium. Lonnie and Alex jumped up before anyone else even noticed what was happening. Alex grabbed and yanked Samhit's arm, while Lonnie stood in between the spitting Megan and the growling Samhit. At the result, oh my god, at the assault from Alex, Samhit wrenched his arm from Alex's grasp and promptly slugged him in the eye, knocking Alex flat and causing quite an outrage with the other students until the stage was crawling with 13-year-olds taking swipes and cuffing one another. The voices joined in crescendo, and the volume grew to such a riotous proportions that the poor little instructor, Mr. Appleblossom, had to resort standing on a chair and reciting a magical soliloquy so deathly boring that it not only sucked all the energy from the room, causing the students to fall limply to the stage, but it also put some of the smaller ones like Lonnie into a deep sleep. "Oh dear, oh dear, please summon Marcus now," Mr. Appleblossom called out to the blackboard in his typical rhyming, iambic pentameter fashion. He wrung his hands and muttered, "And quickly, please, I swear, I don't know how. I have done so already. He's coming through the tube." The theater blackboard preferred free verse. Immediately Mr. Today appeared and surveyed the scene. 20 students fled, arms and legs hanging motionless off the edge of the stage, or swinging lightly with what little momentum remained. "Good heavens," Mr. Today said. "Have we had a bit of a brawl, Siegfried?" Mr. Appleblossom, pacing and muttering still, held out his hands dramatically and cried, "Oh, why? Oh, why? This rootless waste on me? Am I but sand and they the stormy sea?" Mr. Today coughed loudly into his hand, although it might have sounded more like a laugh to anyone who was listening closely. When he could speak again, he smiled politely. "Dear, dear Siegfried, your troubles are great indeed, and yes, it's true, this sort of thing rarely happens elsewhere. But surely you understand the nature of the theater and its desperate want for dramatics, don't you?" Mr. Today had to sort of squinch his lips together to keep from an all-out grin, which would of course led to chuckling, which couldn't be good at all. At this moment, he knew. Sighed Mr. Appleblossom. "'Tis true, the actions in the stage, however, wishes me they'd tone the rage. For what but spells is there for me to do to stop the madness? For they slug me too?" He dropped his arms heavily at his sides and gazed imploringly at Mr. Today. "You did the right thing, Siggy." He turned toward the stage. "Did you hear that, students? I want you to all to think about your actions. But next time, Mr. Appleblossom won't be quite so kind in stopping you. If you don't work out your differences in a proper manner, next time he'll use a stinging soliloquy rather than the boring one, and you'll all be really very sorry that it came to that. Well, this is all I'm going to be reading for today, guys. And I hope you enjoyed the video and what I read today. So make sure to subscribe, do all those steps that said at the start of the video. Thank you guys and have a great Sunday if it's